Why didn't Scourge mind control Optimus like he did with Airazor? He had so many chances in Rise of the Beast to use his corruption gun, like in their fight right here, here, and even here. And if he'd managed to pull it off on Optimus Prime or even Primal, it would have been game over for the Autobots there and then. So why didn't he? What stopped him from using it again on Optimus, and where or who in the world did Scourge get or steal this mysterious mind control weapon from? To try to understand how Scourge made such a massive mistake in Rise of the Beast, we need to know where he got this cannon from in the first place. We've seen many weapons just like this with similar effects, like Sentinel Prime's disintegrating Cosmic Rust cannon, Quintessa's mind control over Nemesis Prime, and even the V-32 Cybercraptor for any Fall of Cybertron fans like me out there. Now, while it's not confirmed, I strongly believe that there are two very strong candidates that match both this gun's corruptive mind control description and powers, and I think in the first scenario, it's quite likely that Scourge had stolen his gun from one of his trophy kills. It's clear that Scourge had slaughtered a ton of different Transformers before he even came face to face with Optimus Prime in Rise of the Beast, from many different factions. However, one faction in particular, the one belonging to this insignia right here, is likely the culprit, the Predacons, the violent far-future descendants of the Decepticons who were notorious for using guns just like this and other virus-based technology to corrupt and brutalize their enemies, the original Maximals from Beast Wars, which Rise of the Beast is partly based on. However, what if I told you that the Predacon that Scourge got this weapon from was already in the movie? Scorponok, or at least Scorponok drones. And before you say it, no, these aren't true Terracons. As you can see in this poster right here, they still possess the Predacon symbol on their backs, rather than the Terracon one, which is a whole other can of cut content in this movie which I'll try to cover in another video, so subscribe to catch it. For those of you who have never watched Beast Wars, Scorponok was the loyal Predacon lieutenant to Beast Megatron, and while he wasn't really the brains of the faction, that was mostly Tarantulas, who also created very similar working devices, he did develop a very similar working gun to the one that Scourge uses, known as the Cyber Bee, a bug-like drone much like the one used by Scourge against Airazor that was able to attach itself to an enemy and inject its host with a virus that would weaken any Maximal, and should turn him into a coward. However, as Scorponok wasn't the brightest of the Predacons, it ended up going horribly wrong. When Optimus Primal became infected by the Cyber Beast's venom, instead of becoming cowardly, he became enraged and began to angrily lash out at the other Maximals. Side note, keep in mind that the Maximals' bodies and systems are way more advanced than any of their Autobot ancestors in both Rise of the Beast and Beast Wars. And with how easily we've seen the Maximals become corrupted, there's no doubt that Scourge's Cyber Corruptor wouldn't have worked on any of the Autobots as well. Imagine if this had been used on Optimus Prime in any of his fights. It would have been Nemesis from the Last Night all over again, and Unicron would have won hands down. Don't forget about Unicron, as he becomes even more important later on. Plus, like Airazor, as time went on, Primal in Beast Wars began to lose even more control over his own mind. Furthermore, if the Cyber Bee was ever removed, it would detonate and kill its target. There's definitely a lot of similarities between the two, and it's very possible that before Rise of the Beast, when the Scorponok drones had their Predacon world attacked by Unicron, that one of them had created this Cyber Bee-esque weapon either beforehand in their possible conflict with the Maximals, or as a means to stop the Terracons. However, due to their superior strength, Scourge was able to overpower and subdue this world and claim this weapon for himself, from the strongest Scorponok or Predacon warrior, to aid in his service and future missions from Unicron, bending other Cybertronians to his will. In fact, it's the same usefulness and similarly corruptive nature of the gun that also makes me think it could have just as likely originated from Unicron as well. We already see how he's able to project himself and mentally torture Scourge from across space and time, ticking off the mind control box, as well as corrupt others like the Terracons themselves and countless other Transformers in other media. Remember Tarantulas from earlier? Even though he was fighting under the Predacon banner in the cartoon, in reality however, he was also a twisted creation of Unicron. And to be fair, his speciality was also messing with people's heads a lot. So he kind of acts as a middle ground between the Predacon and Unicron origins of this weapon. So now we have an idea of where Scourge got this gun from, why didn't or couldn't he use it on Optimus Prime or anyone else? And I think the answer pretty clearly lies with Scourge's personality and actions throughout his fights across the movie. He simply never needed to use, or better yet, he wasn't smart enough in using it. Let me explain. In his very first encounter with Optimus Prime at the museum, he doesn't really treat him seriously at all, and even starts to get cocky mid-fight. as he's able to not only easily overpower him, Bumblebee and the other Autobots, but he would have almost killed Optimus on the spot. He didn't really need to corrupt anyone if he could just kill them instead. However, he made a massive mistake by not infecting Optimus right after Airazor cut him off, which, if he had been a bit more strategic, would have paid off later on in their first fight in Peru, as Optimus would now be fighting under the Terragon banner, helping to retrieve the Transwarp key from the Maximals. So he ultimately was just getting carried away by his own ego throughout the fight, and then when it suddenly started to go all wrong, he wasn't quick enough to think and adapt to a situation. He too easily ended up relying on brute strength rather than flat out strategy. And by the time of the final battle, it was way too late for Scourge to even use the Cyber Beast's corruption again. After all, it took almost a day until Scourge was able to mind control Airazor into attacking the Maximals. Thus, although he had an opportunity to use it on Mirage here, and a revived Bumblebee and even Optimus right here, it would have been too soon for the mind control to set in and work. Speaking of Bumblebee, why didn't Scourge just flat out terminate him instead of draining his energon? It's what left the window open for him to be revived later on during that final fight. Surely he could have used his corruption on Bumblebee, so that way if he ever did get brought back, it wouldn't end well for the Autobots. But I think we all know the real reason as to why they'll never kill off B. Plus, in the case of Scourge controlling Optimus himself, you have to account for his status as a Prime and follower of Primus, providing a massive amount of willpower and literally being the antithesis of Scourge and his master Unicron. So he'd probably be able to resist it, if it was Unicron or Dark Energon based. But what do you guys think? Have a great day and don't forget to subscribe.